On Man United, Potsy, what did you make of their performance, Ahmad, and what this means going forward for them?
I was actually,
trying to be
one who
neutral.
said,
Can't.
I was one who said I thought you deserved the win, if I'm honest. I thought it was a stinky game of football. I've got to say, I thought it was awful. Bruno should have scored. He's obviously chipped that, put it wide. I couldn't quite believe he'd missed, to be fair. But this Amad Diallo kid looks really good, man. And like I was saying to Well-Be and the boys, I honestly believe that is a fantastic bit of individual skill for that goal. That was a phenomenal piece of football. And I know that the defending was questionable, and you can always question mark that, right? But that ball from Martinez, that first touch, the confidence, the absolute set of nuts he had on him to try and put it in the way that way was superb. And do you know what, Till? He deserved that, because I thought he was your best player. And he was the one that actually was a shining light to what's been quite poor at Manchester United for the last few years. And I think you've been one that's been quite honest about that. And I think what made it even more special, if I'm a Manchester United fan, was that weekend I would have learned quite a lot. I would have been really happy and that you take the 3 points off your rivals. If I'm honest with you, I don't think it's an impossible victory, because the way Manchester City are playing at the moment, I think you would have been disappointed to have lost to the way they play, because I thought they were dire, if I'm honest with you. Then when I look at it, I think the decision to leave Rashford and Garnacho out is a really good one from Amorim. I think that is an excellent, excellent move. And I think that we've spoken before about some of the nuts on some of these managers. And you talk about Arteta has done it before, and Pep's done it before. And some of the great managers years ago have done it before as well. You look at what Amorim's done to walk in and just sift through. And he's looked at Rashford, who I've told you I think is a problem for a while. Unfortunately, we're linked with him now. And Garnacho as well, who I think both of them, let's just be real, they're sulking. Right, they're throwing their rattle in the corner. They're throwing Teddy out of the pram. They're getting really annoyed with themselves and the club. So they've been dropped and they've been bombed out. And then Amad Diallo walks in and makes it very, very uncomfortable for the pair of them now. Because why can that not been them? Because their attitude ain't right. This Amad Diallo's come in, and to be fair, I think he's looked one of your better players and bright lights the whole of this season, if I'm honest with you. But to go and do that in a derby, a young kid, I don't know how old this kid is. I think he was really, really exciting. And it's one player that I would look at as a Manchester United fan, if I was one, looking at him going, right, we need to try and make him as best that we can do. Because how many players have come through like this at Manchester United and have just disappeared or have been like a graveyard, I think Gary Neville calls it. Rashford is one of them, let's be real, but he's not the only one. There's been many that have come through. And I think with Kobe Mainu and with him now, Diallo, you have to not make that the case with those two. Because I think they've got a little bit of everything in their game for their position. And I was quite impressed from what I saw with some of the attitude of Manchester United, and certainly from Amorim. And I said to you, as soon as we played you, the way you set up, you made it hard for us straight away. I'm like, yeah, he's not Ten Hag, is he? And I knew he wasn't going to be. Comparing Ten Hag and what Amorim did was a silly thing to do, in my opinion. And I think you should be very, very happy with the win. And Amad Diallo, yeah, fair play to him, man. Fair play.
Yeah, I'm happy with the win, because I always want to win games. Most of the time, there's been occasions where I think I just want this manager gone now. So just please lose today so we can cut an end off. But generally, you 99 times. 99.99 times out of 100, you always want to win football matches, and I'm really happy we did it. Loads of improvements still needed, and my feet are so firmly planted on the floor still, it's unbelievable. On Amad, I love what Amorim said. Great, he was brilliant, but we need to keep his feet on the floor. He basically said this club has got a habit of a young player having a great moment or a great period, and they get thrown into stardom, and then it's hard to keep their feet on the ground and we lose them. And we've seen that multiple times in the last 11 years. And it's why I'm not particularly angry personally with Rashford. It's why I'm not angry personally with Garnacho, the same as I wasn't with Paul Pogba, as an example. I think that when you have a bad culture, when you don't set the right standards, I believe that, and there's a thing that you said about speaking about, I watch what players are eating before games. I watch what players are wearing. And I take that on, but I think there is a seriousness to that. I don't mean it in terms of if you wear a piece of clothing that's quite trendy, but there's a time and a place for everything. I feel you've all done it. I used to do it with Team GB. If we turned up to a big occasion for Team GB and your shirt wasn't ironed properly or your trousers were creased, you got disciplined for it. So I don't personally view that as strange. What they eat is really key. If it turns out, there's been a photo sent to us from a journalist of a player stuffing a kebab at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 days before a game, I expect my manager that is not what you want your players eating and doing. You want them being as professional as possible. I love what he's done. Mainu has been taken really out of the firing line. He's barely started a game under him. Few United fans are getting concerned. I'm not. The same reason in the first few matches I was concerned for Amad, because a few people said, who do you think is going to survive Amorim. I said, well, initially I thought, oh, Ahmad's going to kill it. But he was being played out of his position every time. And it was Garnacho and it was Rashford that were getting the starts in those forward positions. Now you realize why. He was essentially giving those players enough rope to, succeed or hang themselves. And in the short term, that appears that is what they've done. Performance haven't been good enough. Application and behavior off the pitch, professionally they're talking here, hasn't been good enough. He has stated that there isn't a discipline problem with Eva, so it isn't behavior, lateness, drinking, leaks. He's been very, very clear in 3 different interviews now about that it's about their professional application. So I love all of that stuff, but even more something that's important than Amorim is this is the first time I've seen a Man United manager backed in the last 11 years. Yes, we've spent money, but that scratches the surface of what backing a manager looks like. He's being backed in the sense of, I don't think the Glazer-led board would have allowed Ten Hag, would have allowed Ollie, we know they wouldn't let Jose do it. Jose wanted Martial and Pogba gone. And the board said, no, they're too important to us. I want them out of the team. Those things have to be allowed. The head coach, the manager, whatever role they've got, has to be allowed to say this person isn't abiding by the culture that we're trying to set as a football club. And they have to be listened to and given autonomy in that role. As soon as you take that autonomy away, player power exists and people will take the piss with it. So it's really great to see that happening at the same time for me. And altogether, a very good win. It's interesting, what a difference a week makes. This time last week, Ashworth had gone. The rebuild was a shambles. People wanted Ineos thrown out. I haven't seen very many people today tweet, barring Rashford fanboys. That's what's ironic now. Rashford fanboys are now doing what a different group of Man United fans are doing last week when Ashworth was sacked, saying we've got to get rid of Ineos. I have no idea what we're doing. We're going to get beat in Europe this week. We're going to get smashed by City. You fast forward 7 days, we win those 2 games, and it flip reverses. And we're going to go through a lot of this because there's different groups of people that are going to be offended or upset by their favourite player or a target.
What did you make of the Michael Richards and Neville thing, Tell? What did you make of that? Did you see that after the game?
What did they say?
Richards and Neville were having this argument about how Rashford's like it's always Rashford who's a scapegoat, and as soon as Man United win, it's like, oh, Rashford this, Rashford that. Gary Neville was like, look, man, this guy's on 375 grand a week, and he's sulking. Like, it's the right thing to do. In my opinion, I agreed with Neville, but Richards was like, it's a bit harsh. This guy can do it. Do you know what I mean? It was like,
mate, get him out, man. This guy Rashford, How many chances is he going to have?
I agree.
He's on big cash. He's meant to be the poster boy of Manchester United. He's a local lad. And all I ever hear is excuses, moaning, sulking. How about, you get on the football pitch when you get a chance and actually perform? 375 grand a week. I'm not even a United fan, and I get annoyed hearing it. It's all I ever hear, but Rashford. It's like, bro, this guy's living off a career of like, what, two good seasons, 3 good seasons, max. Isn't he like 26, 27 now? This guy should be prime. He should be ready. He should be fighting. And all I ever hear is moaning. I'm not even a United fan, mate. It winds me up how many people. I think he's a poor footballer anyway, man. I don't think he's good enough for United. I don't think he's good enough for United. And I think it's right that he's dropped. And if I was United, I'd try and get rid of him. Because he's not the long-term future of Man United. And you can't have him at the football club if he's not long-term future when he's on 375k. Now, whether they can get rid of him because he's on so much money is another question. But that's their own fault for giving the contract in the first place, man.
And that's why the rebuild under Ineos is going to take time. And this is why cutbacks are being made. And I'm not a fan of all the cutbacks, but this is why these things are happening, because there are certain players that we might not be able to get rid of for another year or so, but we have to bring in replacements for them in that time. So you might have double bubble. And you've got to try and save money while we're doing this because of the previous 11 years of overspending. We're in a hole.